Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk. This is Kareem Bowen. Some of you may be missing me out on Facebook. If you're looking here, I was just notified that we lost notification to my Facebook accounts, and so I will have to update those another time. I hope that doesn't impede some of you from being able to check out the show for today, and I'm certainly sure that that will. I am here today. It is Sunday. It feels like a gloomy Monday. I feel like what was it? The Bengals. Just another manic Monday. It is gloomy outside. I am a sun creature. I need the sun. I don't know about you, but let's make it happen. For those of you who are listening via the radio at WTLZ Kiss 107.1 FM, I certainly thank you for tuning in. We want to continue to build this audience. So if you can tag or share this conversation, I greatly appreciate it with other individuals. We are live right now on YouTube. And so those of you who are going to miss this today because of that notification error, I certainly apologize. But I pray that you go back and you'll listen to it in its entirety at a later time. All right. We got a lot to talk about in today's show. And so I hope that you guys are ready for this conversation. If there's anybody out there in social media land, which I was really intended on there being, I certainly apologize because I know there are thousands of individuals that get notified from that particular platform on Facebook. We'll just deal with those that we have here, those who are finding us here on KISS, on my YouTube, I Grow Daily channel. We certainly welcome you and encourage you to get involved with this conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about the vote of the Supreme Court and how they gutted affirmative action. That will be our main topic for today. So some of you individuals who are out there who are a little bit more tech savvy than those who need the notification to come directly to your phone or viewing device, I'm going to ask that you would please share this to your Facebook page or tag people in the stream so that they can get connected to this conversation. All right. But we want to talk about, as we often do, I got my man Matthew. He's here in the stream. He's the one who gave you the notification. Like, bro, you're not gonna get your normal audience that's listening to you through that Facebook platform. Matt, how's it going today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm tired, but I'm doing okay.
Matt, it is not you, it is this weather. Before, I woke up each morning thinking that we were going through, there was fog outside, and they're talking about, no, it's the fires in Canada that are causing everything to look so foggy. But it doesn't matter, fog or fire, smoke, it all leads for a dreary day, and dreary days make no fun for me. Your day going well, Matt?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. How's your day going?
My day is good. Let me tell you about Matt. Matt is doing extremely well. When I come here, Matt makes me feel important. How you doing, Mr. Bowen? He's at the door waiting for me. I've already gotten your runner show printed out. Your mic is set. He makes sure that things are taken care of. If Matt is looking for job security, he's certainly finding it in me, because flattery will get you everywhere, Matt. You're learning fast.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's get to what's on my mind on today. There is so much for us to talk about, and we only have an hour to do it. So let's get to those conversations. As I told you, the main conversation we'll have today is about that 6-3 vote, the Supreme Court guts affirmative action. But before we get to that, I just want to give a shout out. I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of things circulating on social platforms and just conversations in the community. But I did see this released finally, because I know this was actually in the works. But Saginaw Mayor Brenda Moore is taking action in response to Saginaw mass shooting. I saw that the actual press release went out Thursday or Friday. I know that release had been in the works for some time, but in my conversations with her and other leaders in the city, they were asking me, this is where we are, this is where we're going, what are your thoughts? And I'm of the firm belief, I'm tired of talking. And that's one of the things that the mayor said to me, I think on Sunday or Monday, immediately following the mass shooting that took place here in the city of Saginaw. That's what we got to call it. 15 people were shot, 2 murdered during the weekend events that took place a week ago from yesterday. And she said, I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of talking as well. And, I'm tired of seeing press releases where we give no real how should we say it? No real plan of action for how we're going to deal with the things that are at hand. And on this particular week, we saw that take place where we had a press release, but it was given with some details. I know for a fact, because I've been seeing some of the things that are going on, there is a plan of action in place. So kudos to you, Mayor Brenda Moore, and those of you that are in authority, and those men and others who are part of the community that are taking action to make things happen. I don't want to steal her shine or to steal the thunder that she's going to release. I am extremely surprised and excited about what I am seeing as the response from the seat of the mayor for our community. It is one of the most exciting, thought out plans that I've seen in a very long time in response in terms of what the community is going to do to impact violence in our city. So I want you guys to get prepared. And when you hear it, when she actually drops it, I want you all to get involved, get excited, and let's make great things happen. Also, it is the 4th of July. I can't say weekend, but it's happening here. What do you got planned for this holiday weekend, Matt?
Well, my aunt and her friend are planning on coming over. I'm planning on getting fireworks for my little brother, and other than that, I think we're having a cookout at the house, and maybe some friends are coming over. But other than that, what about you?
Matt said he's having a cookout. Y'all see why I like Matt. We're having a cookout as well. It is going to be a great time. I'm excited about just having the opportunity to be with family and friends. The 4th of July is one of those special holidays that is kind of right in the middle of summer that allows us to just get together and have some fun. And, you know, so everybody's going to be having these cookouts or barbecues or whichever that you call them, get-togethers. And there also will be fireworks. And I saw signs driving down the street, hey, for the cheapest fireworks guaranteed, Charlie Platinum Wireless. I went over and got my fireworks. I don't know about you, man. Did you grab some as well?
No, not yet. But after work today or tomorrow, we're planning on going to Charlie's and getting some.
Yeah, so I've seen some of the stuff that's out there, and I was pretty impressed of what's going on. So we'll have a full fireworks display when we get together. But I want to encourage you all to make sure that you hydrate properly. I know that this is a holiday that many people are drinking their favorite adult beverages, which also help us be dehydrated. Beer, alcohol, those kinds of things. Make sure that you're adding to your supplement water. We need to make sure that we're hydrated. I know the temperatures are supposed to be quite warm for the 4th. So make sure that you hydrate well so that we're not having people pass out and things of that nature. And I'm going to ask that not only do you water yourself, but water down your emotional temperature as well. I've seen so many things pop off during the holiday of the 4th of July, you know, between family members or things that may happen when you're looking for a place to, you know, to park for the fireworks. Our temperatures are high. And I'm going to just remind you guys that there are so many of us out there that are yet struggling with the after effects of COVID and being locked down for 2.5 years. So it's important that we think about these things, make sure that everyone makes it home safely. It is not that important. Also, another note, and I got 2 more things that are really on my mind. I just want to say to folks out there, you know, there's been a lot of conversation. Dr. Pamela Pugh, who is one of our own here in the city of Saginaw, she is running for U.S. Congress, sitting in that seat that Debbie Stabenow sat in for so many years. And this is what I want to say. The options that are out there, they don't benefit the city of Saginaw, Saginaw County, this entire region to any great degree. We have been blessed to have a U.S. Congressman in the person of Dan Kildee, who is very involved in the things that happen here, but that's because of the relationships of our civic officials that are here, because of our mayor, because of our state Rep. Amos O'Neill of 94th, and Kristen McDonald-Rivet. That is because of those relationships. But I need you all to understand something, and this is having a real conversation. Dr. Pugh, I've known my entire life, and you know, she came here and we talked before she made her official declaration of going into this race. And I asked her some challenging questions, but what I will tell you, as I have seen and I've been watching what's been taking place, is that she is doing the work. She's making the connections. I've seen her from Alpena down to Detroit and South Detroit and Southwest Detroit and the west side of the state. She is doing what it takes. She has some experience running a statewide campaign. And I think that it's important for us to understand that she needs the support of the village. This is an opportunity for the city of Saginaw to have a voice, a stronger voice in terms of what happens on a national level and what types of dollars come back to us and the issues that are important to us, making it to the floor of our U.S. Congress. And so, if I mean, you don't have any other, dogs in the fight, you might as well support the home team because any of these other individuals, you're just going to be another vote, not a name, not a person. You don't have a story. And so I just wanted to take time out just to say that it is not going to hurt you or destroy you. As a matter of fact, it is the only vote that has a real benefit to you as it relates to that national race that Michigan has available for our Congress seat. Now, with that being said, I want to say congratulations also to Don Bivens on a successful Alzheimer awareness concert. It took place over the course of this past weekend, I believe. And I am just excited because what I know about what was at hand is that Don Bivens is a hard-working man. He lost his mother not too long ago from Alzheimer's, and I had a conversation with him talking about how difficult it was to experience a mother, just kind of the person that you leaned on, the person that you cared for. And I know that many of you that are listening who have suffered or dealt with individuals who had any type of incapacitation that related or caused mental loss, the way that Alzheimer's does, you'll be able to relate to the fact that there was no ability for her to remember and recollect names and who you are, and the frustration. I had folks who were very close to me that have died the same way. And so I want to give him a great kudos, Don, on your getting involved with what's happening and making awareness. Awareness is essential for anything to really move the needle. And I want to thank you for putting this together. It was not about you. This was not about you using your mother's pain or your mother's death to create a space for yourself. You had already done a very successful concert, I believe the year before, when you brought Leandra Johnson in and Tim Rogers and those others. You stepped it up. You went to one of the theater venue at the day. I can't remember if it's still called the Heritage Theater, but you made it happen. And the community responded in like fashion. And I certainly want to thank you. And I want to give you the encouragement to continue to give information and to build awareness as it relates to Alzheimer's and the effects of it in family and parents and those. It is a horrible way to have to see your parents leave, your heroes and sheroes in your life. So I give you a salute out. I give you the the heart of gold, the heart of gold on today. You are our champion of Straight Talk today for all that you're doing in our community. All right, now I need to turn this conversation just a little bit. And I've got to ask the village, is this what we are growing? Is this what we're rearing? Is this what we're breeding as a part of our community? I really hate that you guys are not able to really give me feedback, because I know the platforms that are missing from our social media streams are the ones that most of you come on. There are thousands of you in those platforms, and that's really where you guys get those notifications. So I just want you to think about this, because when you hear this in review, I want you to think, and you can still share your opinion as you listen to the show, and it will be post-broadcast, but you'll be able to hear the content and still share your opinion. We will get that information here because I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Now, that being said, I'm talking about a particular situation. I first heard about it on the news that popped up about a mother instructing her 14-year-old son to shoot and kill a man at a hot dog stand in Chicago. This is one of those things that when you first hear the story, a 14-year-old mother tells 14-year-old boy to shoot them, shoot the man, that you kind of say, okay, they were both charged with open murder charges to some degree. The mother, Carlisha Hood, she does have a valid CCL permit, a permit to carry, and it was that which kind of stirred the situation. So I did have an opportunity to pull up the video, and if you have not, I want you to just simply Google "Mother instructs 14-year-old son to shoot man at hot dog stand," and it will come up. So Carlisha Hood, she was in the restaurant. There's a hot dog stand in Chicago, and what happens is, while she's in the place, the man is in there with someone who is believed to be, I believe, to be his girlfriend, is what they've made this individual to be. You can hear the individual from the background, but you don't necessarily see the person on camera. And the woman is standing by the window. The man is on the other side of the window. And somehow they find themselves in an altercation. And while they're in the altercation, it becomes verbally intense. And the man is irritated. And I'm not going to say anything about how he's in there with them jeans that are too skinny for any grown man to be wearing, but that's what folks is doing today. And in their confrontation, we see the man become visibly angry. He then tells the woman, "If you say one more thing, I'm going to knock you out." The woman somehow, and I believe it was via text, she texts her son to tell him to get the gun and bring it into the place. And so the 14-year-old boy, who I'm assuming at this point was sitting in the car, he comes back with the gun. The man says it again, "If you say one more word, I'm going to knock you out." And the woman is like, "Why are you trying to knock me out? Why don't you just get your food and move on?" And she continues to talk. And the man, and if you got to see this video, because it is with the force of a grown man, and that he begins to coil and swing and unleash upon this woman. He hits her one really hard time. The woman falls into the corner. He then steps back, and she's telling, "Why are you hitting me, dude? What's your problem?" And he says, "If you say one more word, I'm going to knock you out." Delete explicative. And she says, "Listen, why are you tripping? Get your food, you tripping." And this continues to talk, and he begins to unleash a barrage of blows, closed hand fist hits, like he is fighting a grown man on the street for his life. At that time, the 14-year-old son comes in. She says, "Shoot him, shoot him." The young boy, who obviously has had some practice using a firearm, shoots the man. The man kind of continually goes. She says, "Shoot him again." He shot 2 more times. They leave the scene and later turn themselves in. The man is dead. But during the entire course of this argument, you hear what appears to be his girlfriend egging him on, if I'm not mistaken. And I may have this wrong, but when I looked at the story, his girlfriend was with him, I believe is what was the case. She's egging him on in the conversation. Yeah. And I sat there and I thought about a lot of things. So I got a lot of very uncommon opinions about what it is that took place. And I got to ask those individuals, the elders, those people that are part of our village, is this what we are now raising and calling men in our community? Because this was so big. So I want to take a couple of seconds and unpack this before we get to our main conversation. But I think that what we're looking at is very important. The first thing that I want to say, and I'm going to address this woman first. I want to address the situation with this woman. I'm not sure exactly all of the details of what happened, but what we saw is this woman, she's sitting there, she has this conversation, and this is what I want to say. And folks may not like what I'm getting ready to say, but I'm going to stand by what I'm going to say, and I hope that somebody would listen. The man continually tells her, "If you say one more word, I'm going to knock you out." Now, ladies, this was a mild case because she wasn't popping off at the mouth all in his face. That wasn't this kind of a situation. But what I do want to say is that we have to make some real mental adjustments with how we handle people offending us and how we respond to people who are obviously not well. And I say that because everyone doesn't have to be in a mental institution to not be well. But it was obvious that what this man was upset about and what he was going on about was greater than his interaction with this woman. Now, we don't know what kind of day he had. We don't know what he was going through. We don't know if he's not seen as a man in his home. We don't know if his baby mama broke up with him. We don't know what his situation is. And the fact of the matter is we don't know what anybody is dealing with. But what I will say to this woman is that knowing that your 14-year-old son is in the car, and people may differ, and that's cool. This is Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I'm going to give it to you straight with no chasers, all right? We have to be smarter than that. And so this is a great opportunity for this woman to realize this Negro is crazy. And I'm not getting ready to put myself in jeopardy because he was obviously very upset, and it was obvious that he meant what he was saying. And this was the time that sometimes you gotta, what did Kenny Rogers say? You gotta know when to hold them, you gotta know when to fold them, you gotta know when to walk away, and you gotta know when to run. And this was one of those situations where, you know what, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna be quiet. You know, as Smokey said in Friday, I'm gonna be quiet now, but you just wait. I'll be talking again. Give yourself an opportunity to have that conversation, to have that argument, to have that discussion at a later time by just bowing down. You are a woman. Never go toe-to-toe with the man. I see many women out there stepping the man, putting their hands in their foreheads and pushing them and calling them the chump and them out of their name. And what I always was taught as a kid, and I would hear my grandmother saying this to my cousins and different people: don't ever step to a man like a man, because that man may treat you like a man in his response. And so, women, this situation was not, I can't say it was her fault. I can say this was a bad interaction. But what I will say, knowing that you have children in the car, knowing that people are not well in our streets, and it's good that we're having this conversation today before the holiday, because this is so evident of the type of things that we often see and we often fall into. Don't have an argument with that brother about what's going on. When you see he's talking crazy and he's not feeling well, and he has a woman in his corner who doesn't understand the importance of his actions and how those actions may take him off this planet, you've got to understand that the odds are stacked against you, that there will not be violence as a part of this outcome. Be quiet. Hold your peace. As my grandmother used to say, put some water in your mouth and go about your business, and understand that it's better to bow out on this one and live to argue another day. Now, we're going to turn our attention to this man who is deceased. He's no longer with us. And I will say this, men with the Will Smith syndrome, and the Will Smith syndrome is having a woman who doesn't understand the impact of your actions in a moment and how they may impact the rest of your world. However y'all felt about that, because when it happened, I heard, protect black women, protect black women. I was like, this is silly. Jada, she shaved her hair off. She was pretty, alopecia, no alopecia, whatever. She was a beautiful woman the way she was. She's always been beautiful. And trust me, she knows that she's beautiful. When she puts $1 million diamonds on, when she goes to her $1 million Malibu house or wherever it is she lives a life that is not consistent with most black women in this world. So please stop with this protect black women stuff, because this was crazy. This is where black queens stand up. And in a moment when a man, even if he desires to protect your womanness, and protect you as his queen, this is when I need my black women, my real black women, to stand up. Many times, men, we get with these women who egg you on in your foolishness because you think that they got your back. No, they don't have your back. They're foolish, just like you are. So we hear someone egging on, which I believe to be his girlfriend, through this situation. And this thing is going on. First of all, any man who raises up at a woman in the manner that he does is a punk. That's correct. You heard me. A P-U-N-K, a punk. And most times they don't deal with men in the same way that they deal with women. And I got to just be real with that. Whenever you find a man who goes to task with the woman, the femininity of of God's expression. When you find a man that will buck up against a woman and says he's gonna knock her out and all of this stuff, it's usually a man that will cower and put his tail between his legs when he is in confrontation with a real man. Real men don't do that. So she should have realized in a moment that, listen here, I'm not dealing with a man, I'm dealing with a punk. And it may not be his fault that he's a punk, but he's a punk. Because he's arguing with the woman, he's getting in her face, and he's beginning to engage her like she is a real man. And so I have to ask the village, is this what we are breeding? I'm not sure how this happens, but I've seen this so many times. I am tired of the videos of men beating up women in street altercations like these women are dudes. That it's sad. Men, we have to realize, and my other question was, there were other people that we could hear. There was another man that was in that restaurant. Yo, come on, sister. I'll pay for the food. Let's get out of here. Let's all go home. Where was the voice of the village to bring forth peace? We've got to do better about how we're standing up in these situations, how we're presenting in these situations, and we have to stop getting in there. I know people are like, I'm not getting involved because you end up dead. And so when we do this, it is a continuation. To say nothing makes you complicit and making that everything is okay. But we've got to begin to talk to our men. We've got to let them know that this is not okay. This is not how real men operate. This is not what real men do. Now, to say that, I also want to say to this man, because yes, I called him punk, and he had punk mentalities, which is why he gets the definition of punk. And unfortunately, he's dead. Rest in peace, brother. But your own actions, decisions change directions. Your actions brought you to the place that you are. Now, what I will say, because I'm not crying for you, but what I will say is this. It's sad to see a brother go down in senseless situations like this. And it brings light and sheds light onto a situation that I've been talking to so many people about. We complain about the issues and the outcomes of what's happening in our community when it results in violence or death or murder or being shot or the kinds of things that we saw in Saginaw a week ago. But we're not doing anything to address the real issue. And the real issue is that our black men are dealing with all sorts of, first of all, being a man in today's society is a lot of tough work. Women, being a woman, we doing it by ourselves. Come on, listen to me. Just put your shut up anointing to work right now. And just listen to me for 1 second. Being a man in today's society is a very challenging thing. Being a black man in today's world is doubly challenging. There's so many things that black men are dealing with, and some of them are against, beyond their control. We have seen that this COVID situation has really, I don't think that it created a dynamic, but I think that it exploited the dynamic that already existed as it relates to the mental health of black men. We often aren't given a place where we can have conversations, where we feel comfortable to open up, to talk about our traumas, to talk about our pain, to be able to receive healing and love from other black men. There's an extreme stigma in our community that when black men hug, they must be gay or something is wrong. So we need to, first of all, make sure that we're creating conversations and opportunities for black men to talk about the pain and the things that they're dealing with, the struggles that they're carrying, the troubles, getting into situations as young. And I remember doing something, I was driving to Lansing when I was working in Lansing, and I heard a caller on a radio show call in and say he didn't care about, black people being superstars and NBA players and even becoming doctors and all of those things. But what he would never allow to happen is to create a society in which black people control the laws that govern the land. And another man said, I put these things in parking spaces in my mind because I always want to be reminded of these things. He said that his goal in life, and this was the prosecutor, was that he gave every single black man, and I was saying, like, this is crazy, a 6-digit number before their name. And I need you to know that there are still people who feel that way. So some things that we've done maybe were just dumb things that we did. There are sometimes some things in the criminal system, because as one white attorney said, there is no justice in the criminal justice center or facility. He says that he understood the fact that every black man would get a 6-digit number, that this is not fair. And so we need to make sure that we're talking to our black men, we're listening to our black men, we're giving our black men safe spaces to have conversation with real black men, to tell them that they love them, that they're important, to help them to unpack the issues that they're carrying. Because what I saw in that video was this man going toe-to-toe with a woman and unleashing her with all of the pain and the hostility that he had that had nothing to do with the sister that he was confronting. She was the recipient of all of the anguish and the pain and the pent-up aggression that this man had been carrying around for who knows how long. Brothers, we've got to do better. Sisters, we've got to do better. Village, we've got to stand up and be heard. I want you all, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court's decision to gut affirmative action. We'll be back after this with more Straight Talk. This is Kareem, and we're back with more of Straight Talk. During the commercial break, I've taken the opportunity to post and like and tag and share as much as I could with those of you who are not able to find me on my normal social media platforms on Facebook. So I've been able to share our live broadcast from our YouTube channel over to the other platform, which is Facebook. So hopefully those of you who are listening or you're able to get this, because I know that some of you guys often listen on both platforms, both on the radio as well as in social media. Hopefully you would begin to like, tag, and circulate that information around our community as well as our social media listeners. I certainly want to thank you guys. So we're going to turn the corner really quickly, and man, I feel some kind of way about what's going on, and this is not going to be the last time that we talk about this. But the decision came so fresh that I was unable to really bring people into the conversation so that we could really talk about what's going on. And what I'm talking about is this decision that we're seeing from the Supreme Court, where they officially stick a knife in the belly of and gut the remaining fractions of the affirmative action that has, as it relates to school and their admission to education. We've seen this taking place, and so while we were celebrating Juneteenth, I even took the time to note that we would be having this conversation as we move forward, that affirmative action as we once knew it would be no more. But we're going to talk about some of the realities of what affirmative action really did. We're also going to have a conversation about those benefactors of affirmative action, which were not really folks from our community, but let's have that conversation. And we're going to talk about what this means going forward. Not having a small box that identifies you as Black, born in America, African American, your descent or your connection as an African American descendant of slaves here in America, and how this changes the playing field, the game, the whole thing. Let's have this conversation. With a 6-3 vote, I want to start. I want to give us some statistics, and I always like to deal with statistics, and we have a poll. I think it's an ABC poll that we're going to be talking about that gives some statistics about who supports affirmative action and how the country feels on affirmative action. Then we're going to unpack those statistics. Then we're going to talk about the reality of what took place, and we're going to talk about the court justices and their opinions as well. So with a 6-3 vote. That's 5 white men and 1 white woman, against 3, the dissenting, the Supreme Court, which is a very conservative, right-wing court that we now deal with because of our inability to get out and vote and really make the change happen. This is why the power of your vote is so very important. With one president, we've seen our justice go from something that was in the middle, that was balanced with conservative and liberalism, to a very right-leaning Supreme Court. And now we are beginning, on last year we saw the end to Roe v. Wade. Now we're beginning to see the effects of how one man's vote, your vote, has the ability to impact your life in such a profound way. And there are generations of folks who are going to be impacted by this decision. And hopefully, as we move forward, it's funny because there are many people that are far left that say we need to stack the Supreme Court. And what that would amount to is adding an additional 3 justices, which if this president were the one that would add them, they would be 3 left of center judges to balance out the current court situation. We would go to 12 judges instead of 9. And people said, no, we don't want to politicize the Supreme Court because justice is blind. Well, my people, I got to tell you something real fast. Let me tell you something real quick. Justice is no longer blind. It has 20/20 vision. And our Supreme Court, which is supposed to be the highest court, the balance of justice in our land, has now officially become a public tool, has become a political tool for people to use in bringing forth their agenda. So with a 6-3 vote, and yes, I said 5 white men and 1 white woman, because we all know in the village that Clarence Thomas has not been a person of color since we have seen him on the political scene. He is like an Oreo. He's chocolate on the outside, but he's white in the middle. And his opinions often, not only are they just different, but they are a detriment. It's one thing to have differing opinions than folks in your community. And I certainly think that we are not a monolith, and folks in our community have a very wide, a plethora of thoughts and ideas and things that we say and feel. But it is another thing to not only have a dissenting or a different opinion, but one that is a detrimental opinion to the benefits and the benefactor of Black folks. And that is what we have seen in Uncle Tom Thomas. And so I want to continue. So I want to give you these statistics. It says a majority of Americans approve of the Supreme Court ruling restricting the use of race as a factor in college admissions. It goes on to say, though the country is more divided on other high-profile rulings and increasingly viewing the court as driven more by politics than law, it says that a little more than half of Americans, that's 52%, approve of the U.S. Supreme Court decision of restricting the use of race as a factor in college admissions, while 32% approve and 16% say that they don't know. Listen to these numbers, because what I need you to understand, when they say a majority, when we look at our placement, if with African Americans making 13% of the population of 330 some million folks in the nation, we are never going to be the majority. We will always be in the minority as relates to those numbers. It says that a majority of Republicans, and this is breaking it down by political affiliation, a majority of Republicans at 75%, and independents at 58%, approve of the ruling, while a distinct minority of Democrats at 26% approve. It says, and there are deep divisions between racial groups. Let's talk race. Most white people, 60%, and Asian people, 58%. And I need y'all to circle that number right there, that 58% of Asians, because we're going to see how we ended up in this place, because there's a group, Justice for College Admissions or something, a group that is basically laid by, we'll talk about it. 50% approve of the Supreme Court decision on restricting the use of race as a factor in college admissions, while 32% disapprove, and 16% say that they don't know. Majority Republicans, we said 75%, independents 58, 26. Then we go according to race, 60% of Asians, 58% of approve of the Supreme Court's decision, limit on race in college admissions, while 25% of Black people support the decision. Hispanic people are split 40% approving and 40% disapproving. And when we look at this, we'll look at how these people lay out and fall according to the system. Now, despite most Americans supporting the decision to end affirmative action, remember, this is an ABC poll. Listen to this. Despite most Americans supporting the decision to end affirmative action in universities, Americans are less likely to think that Black and Hispanic students have a fair chance of getting into college of their choice compared to their white and Asian student counterparts. Now, this is direct contradiction to what we just talked about in these statistics. Although most of them think that we should have gotten rid of it, many of those same folks feel that and more feel that Blacks and Hispanics will have a fair chance of getting into the college of their choice. About 2/3 of Americans say that white and Asian students have a fair chance, compared to 47% of Americans who say that Black students and 50% of Hispanic students will have a fair chance at getting into their college of choice. So I have to ask the question. Now, I'm not Einstein. I do not. I can't look into a crystal ball and see things that are not out there, but what I can do is see things when they're in plain sight. If the majority of the country is saying that they wanted to do with affirmative action, that means checking a box that says that this is a Black student, or a Native Indigenous student, or this is a Hispanic student. But then in the same breath, that same grouping of folks are saying that we don't think that Blacks and Hispanics and Indigenous Americans will have a fair choice, a fair chance of getting into the school of their choice, then what is the problem? It would seem to me as that your issue is not with the box checking, but your issue is that you don't want there to be equality or equal opportunity to enter into places of higher education. When I was growing up, very smart folks who are out there, black leaders in community, those who had gotten educations, gone on and pursued, the bachelor's, master's, PhD. They used to always say that the most dangerous or the scariest thing to the world that we live in is an educated black man. I remember that being stated so many times, that black men, black women, this is equal, but something different about black men, because our black women, they allow them to achieve. But one of the scariest things to white America is a black man who is educated, who is well-read, and understands who he is one of the most dangerous or feared things here in America. And when we look at what those statistics say and what that poll just said, it appears that they may have been on to something. Now, before we get into this whole discussion, I want to share with you a little bit something about Justice Uncle Tom Thomas, who gave his opinion in the dissent in the vote for ending affirmative action completely for schools. Thomas enrolled at college at Holy Cross in 1968. A second-year transfer, he got admitted thanks to his good grades and recommendation from a nun, maybe in part because the school was actively looking for black students. Notice this is in the 60s. This is when affirmative action was really just becoming a thing, JFK, and then the following, his predecessor continued the conversation about these admission processes of giving equal opportunity and fairness and equality to a diverse population in our schools, universities, and colleges. 3 years later, in 1971, he got accepted to multiple law schools. One of them was Harvard, which had just adopted a race-conscious admissions policy. And what race-conscious means is that we want to make sure that as we bring individuals into this university, into Harvard, that we're not just going by legacy, because at this time, this is 1968, we understood that, there are some real issues. And folks want to just act like what happened for hundreds of years as it related to slavery no longer have a part or an impact on people's ability to be able to fend and to grow and to do these great things. So Harvard was an exclusive university. There was funding and financing that had to be an issue. And so usually it was the elite, not just academically, but the elite who were sending their children to Harvard, the Rockefellers, and those people who were the elite 1% in our nation. Not only just the fact that they were white, but the fact that they were white and wealthy. But he found himself in Harvard, which had just adopted a race-conscious admission, which meant that he came in, he met the standard of what a Harvard graduate needed to have. Oftentimes when people talk about affirmative action, they often look at it as though they're letting people who are unqualified, that are minorities, get in place of qualified white people who should have that spot. There is a sense of entitlement that our nation has, that we have bred for years, that we are now allowing those individuals with the feelings of entitlement to now make legislation, and they're destroying and they're undoing many things that they don't understand because of the spirit of entitlement. It never meant that black folks who were being admitted, aka Uncle Tom here, were not qualified. It didn't mean that they didn't pass the standard, the sniff test. It simply meant that they were race conscious. They were conscious to bring in black people who met the same criteria, understanding that without these conscious decisions, being consciously aware of these decisions that they made, that they would never create a diverse or a proper opportunity for equality for folks who were not white and wealthy to get into these institutions. So he's now entered in. Thomas had once fantasized about going to Harvard Law, but when it came time to choose, he decided to go to Yale because he thought it would be a better fit for his liberal politics. Y'all hear this? He was liberal at one point. Thomas arrived at Yale at the exact moment it created its first explicit affirmative action program. It was designed to set minority enrollment at about 10% of the incoming class. And this decision was made to atone for the atrocities and the injustices that black people have had to endure as not third class, lower class, no class citizens, as we were not even considered to be humans in this nation. So he enters in, there's a 10% of incoming class during the Supreme Court confirmation. Listen to this. When he was being confirmed by the Supreme Court in his hearing, Thomas said that he believed that he earned his spot at Yale and hadn't received any special treatment due to his race. See, this is the thing that is so important, and we've got to be careful about the things that we say, because when we speak in hearings and confirmations, those things just don't go away. They remain a part of the legacy of our getting to where we are. Now, here we have him in his confirmation back in the 90s, and you all remember it after he had done all the atrocious things to Anita Hill. It was a whole scandal. He became a part of the good old boy scandal, but he said that his getting into Yale had nothing to do with his with affirmative action, with him being black, and he didn't receive any special treatment because of his race. He said that he grew up in affirmative action era too, albeit a generation later. Clarence Thomas Steele, when he went up to high school and college in the 90s, he said that he heard the same stuff that people were saying. The only reason he's getting there is because he's black. Now, fast forward to 2023, he makes the statement that the reason that he feels, and he has always gone through his life, and he feels as though they need to remove it because it places a stigma on high achieving black individuals, that the only reason that they got to where they got or where they've arrived is because of their race. Is this not? You can't have it both ways, Uncle Clarence Thomas. So I need you. So first of all, I just wanted to put that out there. All right. So he now makes a decision. I think the man has a number of issues that we need to see, because he also is a key witness or party allegedly to what is going on into really subduing the voice of voters in highly black areas. And there are some of us that are in the community that just don't like ourselves. So let's talk about what affirmative action means, what this means. First of all, when you look at the statistics, and we've gone through the numbers a million times, and every single time we've looked at these numbers, we've seen that the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action has always been white women. Not black folks, but white women. They were the greatest benefactors of having affirmative action processes, both in school admissions as well as the workplace. Following that by blacks, not African Americans, those who were born to the soil, but highly affluent Africans from other countries. Those are the people that were really benefiting from the affirmative action process in many cases. However, it did give a benefit to a young black boy such as myself, Kareem Bowen, when I went to Michigan State University, and that was a part of it. I went in and I was a part of a program. There were programs that were centered around my success at the university. Now, I will say this: I went to Michigan State University with 5 other friends. I was the only black that went to the university. Yes, I believe that race played a key indicator on my being admitted to Michigan State University. However, I was able to do what it was necessary to achieve and to matriculate and to move forward. And when it came to graduation, my other 4 white counterparts had dropped out of school or had been released, we'll say very nicely, from their burden of being students at Michigan State University. And I was the lone individual at the end of our tenure at Michigan State University that graduated. And there was one of those other individuals. There was another individual by the name of Luz Martinez, who also graduated. It took a little bit of time, but she finally went back to school. And I think in 7 or 8 years, she got her bachelor's degree from Michigan State University. And so what I'm saying is that although it was a proponent, I truly believe it was a proponent of my being accepted into college, it was not the leading factor, because I scored well on my ACT. I was in the top 5%, the top 5% of my class. I did those things well. My parents were not rich. I was not a part of a legacy, because I have an issue. How can you end affirmative action, meaning that we give placement based upon a racial system, and you don't end legacies? A legacy is when you have one individual that has gone to that school, or two individuals, your father, your grandfather, and that third individual that goes to that school is seen as a legacy, and you get entered in based upon the entrance of your forefathers. So because your forefathers were a part of this school, you get free admission to this school. This is affirmative action for white folks all over again. But they still have that in place. Cherie Steele Phillips says colleges as well as corporations have quotas of race and gender that must be met. Well, we're seeing that race will not be one of those quotas as they use it. So let me get to this, and we only have a few minutes for me to finish this. As I said, this will not be the last time we have this conversation. We will talk about this again. So I went on, I completed school. Okay. What I was saying about that, it did not mean, and I remember having conversations my freshman year, and I remember one of the white students says, well, you got in here because you were black. And I told him, I said, no, I got here because I was qualified in black. And there is a much bigger difference. If you don't meet the qualifications, a university should not take a risk on somebody messing up their statistics of success. But when you meet the qualifications and there are intrinsic barriers that prevent you from getting in and to have the opportunity, that's when race has played a factor. And especially, and I will continually tell my story, that we found out a while ago that my family, who was enslaved in the Maryland, Baltimore area, we were sold into what I consider home. My fifth great grandfather, Alec Hawkins, was sent into slavery by the priest at Georgetown University so that it would not close down and those white attendants would continually have a place of higher education. They were closing because they could not pay their bills. And so my fifth great grandfather and 72 other individuals, 272 other individuals were sold into slavery into Merrington, Louisiana, which is where I grew up, or my family grew up, where my history goes. My great grandmother, when I would go visit her, we went to Merrington. We were sold to croppers there, as on the tobacco fields and the sugarcane fields and the cotton fields to keep Georgetown University open, a university that I was not even allowed, our families were not even allowed to go into. So we have countless stories. My family story is not the only story, but there are countless stories of why affirmative action was necessary. And those things have not changed. They have not gone away. Those things are yet in place. Now, as we look at the impact, because there's something that I want us to think about as the impact, it removes from a university their ability to use race. And someone said, well, maybe you put it in an application. Maybe you can put it in not in the application, but in the writing section of your application, in your personal statement, and Justice, what's his name? John Roberts was like, we don't want you going around. He made sure that he closed the door. Don't use in any form race to make your decision for admission. I think this is so detrimental. The thing that also now begins to add, that begins to come to mind, for those of you who are my brothers and sisters that attended HBCUs, that's historically black colleges and universities, we understand why those institutions were created. They were created because we were not being admitted or allowed. It was illegal for us to be educated. It was illegal to educate black people or even to give them books. White folks were murdered who empathized and had sympathy on black people and taught blacks to read. And they were murdered. It was a crime to teach education to black people. Why? Because knowledge is power. And if knowledge is power, ignorance is dangerous. And we were caught in a system that understood that we were strong, that we were resilient. It wasn't that we could not achieve. It was that they had to burn down everything that we did achieve. And so my concern now is black colleges and universities. When we look at these HBCUs, these historically black colleges, as I said, they were created because we were not allowed to be schooled. They were created because their teachers would not teach our schools. So we have, the boys and other individuals who came and created these institutions of higher learning. They got educated. They came back to the village and they began to educate other blacks. And we saw them cranking out at Howard University. So this is really key. Howard University became a leader in cranking out doctors. And right now, it's one of the top universities. I applied to Howard University, got accepted into medical school. It is one of the top medical schools in our nation. And when you go to Howard Medical School, all the doctors that are admitted, even though it is a historically black college, university, it is all the doctors and people that are trying to get their medical degrees do not look like me. White folks have understood the importance of being accepted and admitted to these high professions. They want the education no matter where it comes from. And so now my concern is for a school that has been a safe haven to our community, such as Howard and Florida A&M and Tuskegee and all of these historically black colleges and universities, for those schools, is there now a target on the back of their public funding? Because if the federal government makes a rule that you cannot use race as a part of your admission, and most people that are coming to those universities are black students, is their public funding now in peril, in jeopardy? I've got to go. We'll continue this conversation at a later time with people who are much smarter and wiser than myself. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Like, tag, and share this. For those of you who are able to get it, I certainly thank you for your time and attention. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you. Grace and peace.